decimal to a percentage. Of this one? Yeah, we're going to do it on the next slide. So we have 6/8. So if we have 6/8 and we want to change it to a percentage, what's the first thing we need to do? And what does that do, the division, and make it a decimal? 0. What? Does it go out farther than 7.5, or is that 7.5 rounded? Oh, okay. Well, there we go. We don't have to round that to 100, so it only goes out to 0.75.
We do better.
6 into 8, which gives us 0.75. So you're changing your fraction just to a decimal. So then we take this 0.75 and we change it to a percent. How do we do that? Multiply by 100, which gives us 75, and we add the percent sign. Yes. When you're changing a decimal to a percent, you can either multiply by 100 or move 2 places to the right. When we look at ratios, it's a relationship of a part to the whole. So it's much like our fractions. The first part of our ratio is our numerator. The second part of our ratio is our denominator. And the 2 parts are separated by a colon. So the example that we have here is that 100 milligrams of caffeine is a part of 1 can of soda. Or they have 30 milligrams of codeine to 1 tablet. You guys will write some ratios like this on, I believe, quiz 3. But for the ratios that you guys will be doing for quiz 2, it is actually like fractions. So if we wrote 6/8 as a ratio, what would that be? So it'd be 6, and then our colon 8. When you guys have to write ones like this for your quiz, I want to say it's quiz 3, if I remember correctly. You can write it either way. But you're going to write, one part of whatever. You guys will see, we'll talk about that before that quiz. But it normally tells you like how many milligrams to 1 tablet. You guys write how many milligrams of medication to the 1 tablet. When we convert ratios to fractions, it's the exact opposite of what we just did. So we're going to put the first number as the numerator and the second as our denominator. So they have the example here is 4:5. So if we were writing that as a fraction, we would get rid of the colon, put our fraction sign back in. So fractions to ratios and ratios to fractions, it's just pretty much the same. Your numerator is always going to be your first number. Your denominator is always your second number. So we're talking about fractions to ratios again, where the numerator is the first value, the denominator is the second. So 1/2 is 1:2. When we look at converting ratios to decimals, we write the ratio as a fraction and convert the fraction then to a decimal. So if we have the ratio of 1:10 to a decimal, what's the first thing we have to do? Change it to a fraction, which would end up equaling what? 1/10. So 1/10 is our fraction. And then how do we change that to a decimal? Divide. And we end up with 0.1. Remember, we need our leading zeros, not our trailing zeros. When we look at converting decimals to ratios, we have to write our decimal as a fraction, reduce to lowest terms, and then restate it as a ratio. So if we're going to write 0.25 as a ratio, what is the first thing we're going to do? Make it a fraction. So what is our fraction? 25/100. Is that in lowest terms? No. What's in lowest terms? So we have 1/4. What do we do with 1/4 now? We're going to a ratio. So what do we do? So after we have the fraction in lowest terms, we just make it a ratio. When we look at converting ratios to percentages, we convert the ratio to a decimal and write the decimal as percent by multiplying the decimal by 100 and adding the percent sign. So when we look at 2/3 to a percent, so what's the first thing we do with 2/3?